what she likes, what her views are about the importance of buying local and the importance of local products, especially in the context of what is happening right now. If you think about the economy and the state that the economy finds itself in, even before we went into lockdown, the economy was already in not so good shape. And if you consider the numbers that have come out now, I mean, the unemployment numbers that we saw about 2 weeks ago are numbers that paint a very gloomy picture. 30.1% unemployment is quite high. Because in terms of numbers, you're talking a couple of millions of people. I mean, we're already at about 6 million people that were told were unemployed at the time before the numbers came out, and the number has gone up. And that is just people who've stopped looking. So from the 6.2 we had in the previous quarter, that number has gone up. And if you combine that number with those people who are completely discouraged, that number is much higher. So there is a need, there's a definite need for us to respond. Get for this wave of job losses that comes with the coronavirus and its impact on the economy. I mean, more jobs will be lost during this time. So we have to do things differently, and that's why we have these conversations. And in a few minutes, we'll be talking to Iman to find out what she thinks can be done, what she thinks of local products and the economic impact that they can have on all of us. I think we all know someone is unemployed. Yesterday we launched our new campaign, which I'll talk to Iman about. We launched our consumer education campaign, which is built on the back of an advert that features Dr. John Kani as the main character. And he was there from when the campaign started in 2001, and he was Team Modism, and how he has walked this journey with Proud South African over the last 20 years. And now that we are at year 19, and in fact we're in our 20th year now, it was proper for us to call him back as someone who started with this campaign back then, to come and give us a view of what he thinks can be done to try and get South Africans to understand the economic impact of their purchasing decisions. So we launched the campaign yesterday. The ad drops today. In marketing terms, I was taught that they say the ad drops. So the ad dropped. The ad drops today on SABC TV and on their various channels. The ad will also be on ad over the next 3 months. So we're looking forward to seeing what the responses will be like to that ad, which is part of a broader campaign. So outside of that ad, you also have a radio element to it. You're going to have a lot of digital presence that you will see of that ad, of that message, to just ensure that we get to as many South Africans as possible, get them to understand what the economic impact is of buying local, what it means to the economy, what it can do for jobs. And one of the questions from Pink Milk Bath is the campaign or ad available online? Yes, if you follow us on Instagram, if you go to our posts of yesterday, you'll see we've posted the ad, we've posted it on Twitter. So just check it out on our page, on our proudly.sa page on Instagram, @proudlysa on Twitter. We've posted the ad on our YouTube channel. There is also a link that has been posted, so you can okay, this is okay, but someone says Modi Pizzo. Modi Pizzo. Okay, says hello. Is that who's this Modi Pizzo? Says this is. So Iman was here, but we just need to go live with her. She was here when we started at 12, so pardon us. We are definitely going to be talking to her in a minute or so. Oh, okay. So request to go live then. Let's see. Let's go live with. Okay, so as we wait for Iman to go live, we hey, so it's you. Hey, your handle confused me.
It really is me.
I thought someone is playing games and pulling a fast one on me.
Oh, no. You won't believe it's so torrid. I've had such a torrid time trying to get in. But it is me, and it's so nice to see you and everyone who's on here. Hello, everyone.
No, welcome, Iman, welcome. I'm just trying to get my volume up. Can you hear me clearly?
I've got you loudly and clearly.
Yes, good.
Seems like you're in your backyard.
Yes, I wanted I wanted to do it inside the house, but my kids are doing online schooling and they're making so much noise. The background noise was killing me, so it's good to be outside. so I'm still in level 5, eh? I'm still in level 5.
Well, given that infections are spiking, there's a lot to be said about being extra vigilant right now than we actually have been, in the last few weeks. So this is curious. So let me tell you a little bit about who. And I couldn't get in on my own account. And she's like, I forgot to consider the fact that I have all these followers. What must they be thinking? Who's this strange person broadcasting?
Yeah, no, it's true. Because when people follow you and they see you alive, they just go on. But it's good. It means we have a lot of young people that will educate about the importance of buying local and what it means to the economy if people buy local. So exactly. It's quite good. It's quite good. But you're no longer on our screens every night. So, Madam Speaker, are you missing in action? Are you well?
I'm very well. This has been such an interesting time. I mean, Eustace, you and I connect around Proudly SA campaigns, or we've done work together in the past. But it's interesting that this is such a time of reinvention. It's a time where we're thinking about our old skills, new skills, untapped into skills. And it's been an opportunity to be able to do that. For a lot of people, you can become so paralyzed by the need for change and the fact that, you have to recalibrate everything that you knew, everything that you were expert in before, and find out what are my new skills and what is an opportunity for me. Otherwise, you're going to die. I mean, my business is fairly new, and for it to happen, and it's a face-to-face business, it's all about communications and being in front of people. We had to, it was hard in the beginning, but now we're there.
Yeah, no, being in business is for the brave. I've tried it. I've tried my hand in business a couple of times. I can write a book about how to sync a business and how the business can sync without you wanting it to sync. And so I've experienced it. So big ups to those the likes of you who are brave enough to go into business. It's tough. It's not for the faint-hearted. Yeah.
No, it certainly isn't for the faint-hearted. But this is the thing, when challenges like this happen in a context like this, is you to tap into things that are outside of your comfort zone, because otherwise you stay, within what defines your comfort zone. And so, some people will transition a lot quicker and easier. They'll find it a lot more of a challenge that they can rise to. And a lot of people, will be engulfed by the wave of everything that is new. And so one of the things I really wanted to say today, especially for other business owners like myself, is, don't don't be so scared that you're scared into paralysis. The one thing you have to do is look for partnerships and be able to and be able to collaborate with other people. There's an opportunity there. I mean, I'm talking to so many different people, and not just in South Africa. I mean, we're talking globally as well.
Okay.
The world is changing in a way that is before.
Yeah, that's
and it's
good.
only because of this time.
That's good. No, so you must make the best of it. What we stand for as Proudly South African, though, for the likes of you entrepreneurs, is ensuring that we open up access to market opportunities, because you can have those partnerships, you can set up a business with the best processes and systems and have access to funding, which still remains a big problem, a challenge for many people. But if there is no one buying from you, it becomes a real challenge. And that's why a campaign like ours exists. And we say, if you're rendering a service or you're providing a product that is locally made and obviously ticks all our boxes, because we stand for quality, it must be a quality locally made product. If you tick all those boxes, then we'll open up markets for you. So your business must come on board, and we must try open up those markets for local producers, for local service providers.
Yeah. You know what? By the way, Eustace, Instagram is so cool. Like, this is actually officially my first live broadcast on Instagram. And I'm looking at so many different people. With one is like, the future is local indeed. You know, and so many different people joining. If I'd known it was so dynamic and so interactive and you know, so much more real time than other things, I would have been on here a long time ago. So welcome to everyone that's joining us. Somebody says, lovely to see you, Iman, in your proudly SA curly afro.
Oh,
yes. And what I can also say is that's got nothing to do with the lack of salons being open.
Okay.
I've just decided that I'm just going to embrace myself.
Yeah, no. So join the club. You see, I've never had hair this big in more than 20 years. I haven't grown my beard. This just for me, it's because of lockdown. But now my favorite barber. Thank you. My favorite barber called me a week ago. In fact, he's called me twice already to find out if I'm coming through. I'm still too paranoid and too nervous. So I said to him, I'll come through. I'm just glad he's not on Instagram. At least I think so. So he'll know that I pulled the first one on him. I'm not planning to go see him anytime soon.
Well, we didn't get a scare. And someone is saying Uncle Bay.
Yes.
So that one's for you, Eustace. Zeal is also saying Uncle Bay.
Well, that's so naughty.
But you know, coming to one of the reasons we're gathering around this Instagram fireside, Eustace, is the importance of buying local. You and I, again, have spoken in different fora and platforms around the importance of buying local.
Yes.
And it couldn't be more emphasized than at a time right now. I'm just going to quickly look to my right and look at my laptop, and I've got some really interesting statistics around you know, the cost to our economy. 14 billion rand per day in economic loss is what the projected effect or impact of this pandemic has been in our economy. We've got all of these, you know, 800 billion, you know, rands worth of interventions from government. But my question is, how much of that money is reaching people in business during this very difficult time? For people like myself who have access to a great network and other people who can pass work my way and do stuff, I've been in a little bit of a better position. But I know of a lot of businesses, people who've tweeted me or emailed me saying, we're dying out here. They are businesses based in South Africa. They are homegrown. A lot of them make produce and are trying to grow their supply chains in South Africa. But they are literally being starved of oxygen. Tito Mboweni just last week was saying, this is an opportunity for us to think about our imports, to think about what's coming in from foreign countries and territories where we typically buy from, particularly countries like China. If we buy local goods, if each of us tries to source something that has a made in South Africa stamp, or you know a tailor that's locally based, or you know somebody who's an artist or whatever they're doing, they're locally based, they're sourcing raw product from South Africa, the labor is from South Africa, we can begin to really build and support, strengthen our local supply chains. And suddenly you have this entire ecosystem that is insulated against disastrous events like a pandemic, like a global pandemic where, imports and exports are starved. You grow a local market. You say to consumers, I'm going to enter into an agreement with you. I'm going to go back to those kinds of cooperatives to support local industry and business.
No, that's true. And what you said talks to our mandate, and that's why a campaign like ours exists. Because if you think about value chains, I mean, let's take clothing and textiles. I think it's the easiest one. Or maybe furniture. I think furniture is much easier, in fact, to explain to people. That if you think of the furniture industry, for any furniture item to land in your house as the end user or in your office, if you think about the raw materials that go into making that item, there are jobs across that whole value chain. So the steel suppliers that supply you with the steel that you need to make the furniture item, the guys who give you the wood, the guys who give you the paint, the chemicals industry benefit because they supply the adhesives and the paint. The plastic guys supply some of the components. The bolts and nuts come from the steel industry. So a furniture item has an impact on all those industries if it's made using locally sourced raw materials and components, and that is what we are talking about when we talk proudly South African, to say, think about your purchasing decision in the context of the impact it has on the economy. So if you buy something that comes from China and there's raw materials coming from all over China, making up that final product, then you've supported jobs in all those industries and in that specific country. A good example is tomato paste. We are told that the tomato paste that we consume in the country comes predominantly from a combination of Italy and China. So the Chinese supply the tomatoes to the Italians compress it and turn it into tomato paste, and that is what we are using in the country. So basically, just with that one purchasing decision of buying a tomato paste product, you've supported jobs in China and Italy, just with that one purchasing decision. And that's what we're trying to do, to say, all those people that you're talking about that are being starved of oxygen that they need, the businesses that need how many people you employ, but think of your business, the people it employs, as well as the people that are taken care of by those ones that are employed in your business. It's households. I have a friend who called me 2 weeks ago and said he had to lay off 12 people. And for me, he was saying it's 12 households because about 10 of those people are breadwinners. They're the only ones, the only source of income were just from those 10 people. He said, okay, the other 2 are married and their spouses have income of some sort, but the 10 other people were the only source of income for those households, and that's how horrible it is if we neglect supporting our businesses.
It's really quite serious. And when you talk about your friend's business and the 12 people that have to be laid off work, you multiply that by 5 or 6, because that's the true impact of where that economic benefit is being lost. And it takes a very long time once you enter the ranks of the unemployed, or once you become financially exposed and you go into bad debt and you can't borrow money anymore. It creates a debt trap for a lot of people in South Africa. When we talk about those numbers, it seems like nothing. You begin to add them up and you then have a notion of what the exponential impact to our economy is. Here's another cautionary tale is doing, and Fair Play is an organization that is against dumping, particularly of chicken and poultry products in the South African market. And if you read a recent article that they wrote about what COVID-19 and this pandemic is doing in terms of the lockdown economies. So our lockdown has been, over 100 days now? I can't remember the exact number. So those companies and organizations that dump poultry into our country are stockpiling that poultry in their territory. So the minute lockdown ends and those channels and those trade routes are reestablished, we're going to be massively flooded with poultry imports from other countries. And I don't need to beat the drum again about the the danger of those poultry dumping. We don't know the countries of origin. We don't know what conditions that poultry was reared under. May or may not meet our health and safety protocols. But we're purchasing that and we're a market for that. So we've got to be really careful. And the worst effect of that is that the local chicken producers and the local chicken widely once lockdown ends.
No, and that's true. We work very well with Fair Play. So I know the guys. I know Francois,
Yeah.
and I know the team there. And in fact, we have engaged a lot with Isaac Breitenbach of the SA Poultry Association with a view to rolling out a campaign to educate consumers on what to look out for when you buy. Think about it, a typical purchasing transaction. When you go into your favorite retail store and you're walking down the aisles, you don't necessarily have time to tend the package, to check what the health and nutritional content that has been placed there is. You don't have time to even check the country of origin. But we've said to them the best way to can find the chicken that is made in South Africa is to look out for the Proudly SA logo. So why can't we collectively as leaders, when I say we, I mean when we're talking to all of them, why can't they all use the Proudly South African logo? So we have 4 of the main producers already in our books and gearing up for that campaign. We're still talking to the 2 major market shareholders in that market share players in that industry. So we have those 4 already. Product, you will find the Proudly SA logo right on the front, so you don't even have to turn the back. It does not add seconds to your shopping trip and to your shopping time, and that's what we're looking for. Ways to make it easy for consumers to identify those products, so that when those products like that from these countries that we don't know of, where we are not even certain if it's healthy for us to consume or not, once those reach South Africa, we need to know that consumers can easily identify the good ones from those ones that we don't necessarily encourage them to consume, because our health is at stake. I mean, that stockpiling, when did they start stockpiling? Because remember that the value chains were disrupted months ago. Before we went into lockdown in March, other countries had gone into lockdown. So these things might have been stockpiled from as far back as December, January, and February. And that is the biggest concern that consumers should be worried about.
But Eustace,
So
what do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think is the biggest obstacle to really creating a national campaign that is embedded in our consciousness around, if we buy local, we're actually materially supporting the economic prospects of our country, because we are strengthening local supply chain, we're keeping small businesses. As you say, that if we do that, you support everyone from the person who's growing the tomato, to pulping it, to preserving it, to packaging it, to redistributing and retailing it. I mean, there's so many opportunities. But then it goes back to the beneficiation argument as well. I mean, we export so much raw material, it's beneficiated in other countries, sold back to us at 10 times the price, and then we purchase. So what do you think is the obstacle? I mean, why are we missing that important step? And why are we not as conscious about the real impact of trying to support local industry?
The patriotism levels are not at the point, are not at the level, or maybe it's economic patriotism. Maybe let me put it that way. I think South Africans love their country. They're proud of being South African. But when it comes to taking economic decisions or economy-linked decisions, we are quick to continue with our loyalty towards that which is not necessarily from South Africa, whether it's in terms of buying your car, buying the clothes that you wear, buying the food that you consume on a day-to-day basis. The conversations we are having now is with the CEO of JSE, and 2 weeks ago we had that talk. And she was based in Australia. She's South African, but she was based in Australia for a little bit too, because she had a great job opportunity there. And she was telling us about this Australian-made campaign, which is what Proudly South African was modeled around. So when they started Proudly South African in 2001, they looked at various buy local campaigns. In 1998, when South Africa looked at that campaign to see what could be implemented. But she was telling me how the Australians look out for that Australian-made logo. Whenever they buy, if there is an equivalent of that imported product that is made in Australia, they will never buy the imported equivalent. They won't do it. So because they understand the economic impact thereof. I think that the poverty levels in this country are also so high that people don't necessarily have the option to buy that which is local. When they're buying, they look out for that which is the cheapest at that time. So you have so much at your disposal. You are looking to fill your basket with this many products, and that is what dictates your purchase economic impact. But the loyalty is still not necessarily in favor of that which is locally made. And for me, that's my view. I don't know what your view is on that, and if you agree with my sense that the economic patriotism is not at the right level.
It's not at the right level. I agree with you. Although, some would take, would want to further define what patriotism means, and it has, negative negative connotations in certain settings. But if it boils down to that, we need to coalesce around a national project, and if the argument is made, business that you support, this is the net impact to the economy. If that message is continually kind of embedded in people's minds, people are really intelligent and they're really smart. But what we also need to do is make sure that there is a kind of consistency and amplification of the message. So that's one. The second one, you're absolutely right. I mean, if a family is making a rand and cents decision, and the majority of our country folk are doing that, you won't buy a chicken from South Africa. You might buy one overseas, incidentally, because sometimes they're marginally cheaper, not terribly cheaper, but they are a little bit cheaper, and you want to save cents on something else. Maybe what we need to think about is how can we look at a basket of locally made goods that government will co-subsidize for the poorest in South Africa, so that we do two things. We let them have access to those good quality homegrown products, but they are subsidized, and then that money returns to sort of the retail or the revenue pool. Maybe if we begin to ring fence it like that. I mean, I know that we have certain zero rated products in South Africa specifically for that reason, but I'm saying if we want local industry, let's subsidize those products. I mean, I haven't done the sum, so I don't want to pretend to be an economist used to get you into a lot of trouble. But I think that we just need new generation thinking around what makes sense at the point of sale, because the long-term economic benefits cannot be out-argued. They are there, they are empirical, and within 1 to 2 years, actually, we can begin to see a real growth turnaround in our GDP if we begin to focus exclusively on these things. Yeah,
no, I agree with you, and that's why we on your first point, we launched a campaign yesterday, which focused on the. So please tell Kawe what things Modi has hacked. Modi is not hacked, Kawe.
Kawe, listen, Modi is not hacked. My auntie. I hope that all you guys are listening and getting some good information.
Yeah, I saw that you posted one earlier saying I'm confused. So I was wondering why he's confused, and now he's saying he's Modi hacked. So now we know why he's confused. so back to your first point, we launched a campaign yesterday to try and address the challenge with South Africans is that, and not just South Africans, I think it does the world now. There's just so much being thrown at us every day. There is just so much content, so much messaging, so much advertising, so many brands being thrown at us. So that is one of those messages that I think should be embedded in each and every one of us from a young age. Someone there said maybe we must teach it. We must teach this messaging at schools, and we have tried that. In fact, for a few years we had the Proudly SA curriculum, or the message included in the curriculum for grade 8 in one of the subjects. I think it's life skills or life orientation or one of those. So that's what we're trying to do, to get it included in the lower grades as well. So as opposed to having it just in grade 8, put it in the lower grades, because kids dictate a lot of the purchasing decisions that are made. I know I have 2 11-year-olds in my house. If they don't consume a product, I will not buy it, because it will sit on the shelf and it will go to waste. So they dictate a lot of what is bought, and the minute they start telling you as a parent what to look out for and what to buy, you are going to then start buying that product which is locally made. If they say to you, look out for the payoff line says our everyday decisions shape our future. So the decisions that you make every day on what to buy shape the kind of future that our kids are going to have. In fact, Dr. John Kanye, who's we call him the steering. He's the steering of the ad. Yesterday gave a nice explanation on it, and he said how he looks at the world is that all of us, especially the adults, all of us are taking care of the world for those that we're going to pass it on to. Look at it that way, that whatever actions you take today are aimed at making sure that you take care of this earth or planet that you have been entrusted with for the benefit of those who are coming after you, our kids and our grandkids. So if you're taking decisions today, you must know that when you hand over a country to these kids at a later stage, you must have prepared it such that they can thrive. If we take this that is not stable, that is not strong enough to create jobs, that is not stable enough to can even have infrastructure for health, for schooling, and for all those things, because if the economy does not grow, the money for all those things is not available, won't be available. So I like that example that he gave, and I think with you, I mean, you're well traveled, you've been around, you've covered a lot of economic, political, and those kind of stories. What is your view, though? And it's more or less the same question you asked me, but what is your view, and what is your take on South Africans and how they feel about South African brands?
Well, I mean, I think it's subjective, because you could map it out in two ways. You could do research that says, what is the love for homegrown? Are people buying local, and do they love South African brands? From a personal perspective, I mean, I always strive to buy things that are made in South Africa. I'll try and look for local brands, and more specifically, if they are brands that are manufactured by Black business owners and Black entrepreneurs, then I'm more inclined, even more so, to buy something, because I know that that's sustaining a business that is owned and operated so that's really important to me. I do think, I mean, there are many moments where we see just how much people love the country. I mean, when it comes to really coalescing around something, and I don't want to use the World Cup moment again, it's been really overused, but what it did prove is that if we were given something to coalesce around, a fire that we were all invited to sit around, South Africans do that. People who live in South Africa, who are from other places and call South Africa home, they do that. So the route that we're being asked to gather around or to travel on, then we will do it together. But it's about, again, about being in people, reminding people wherever they are that this is the economic benefit. This is the chain of business and the supply chains that you support and keep alive in South Africa.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I'm of the view that we all can contribute in one way or another, and those who are in the private sector, as an example, are those we are gunning for them. When I say gunning for them, I really mean we are hounding them, and they're probably tired of getting emails and phone calls and presentations from us. Sorry, there's noisy. Please close the door. Ntsako, close this door. Sorry. My son is asking me so my helper is trying to clean. So instead of closing the door, he wants to go tell my helper to stop working. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
It's a vacuum cleaner is going.
Building, and we also have to ask, all the technical people to please just stand down while we're busy with our interview. So
he's my technical guy here. So what I was saying is that we're asking them as purchasing decision makers. I mean, think about this blue chip companies and how much money is being spent daily. If they started ring fencing some of that spend and looking at products that they buy on a regular basis and started saying, when we buy the specific items, we'll buy them locally, think of the difference it would make. So it starts there. We all have a contribution to make, and with this campaign that we launched yesterday, which is dropping on TV today on GSTV, SABC, and on ETV channels, we hope that we can get South Africans to have that fire, like you said, that all of us can. So it's very practical, and we're trying to use as many people around us as possible to help us spread the message. And that's why we're talking to you. We're trying to get to as many South Africans as possible. We spoke to Robert Marawa 2 weeks ago. We spoke to Leanne Manners before that. We spoke to Tebe Kalafeng. And there's many more that we're going to speak to. And what we're trying to achieve with this is to get to a point where South Africans understand that even the people that they look up to, the ones that inform them, that entertain them, and also have a responsibility and understand what it means, because I think that's how we are going to get South Africans to start really paying attention. I think they're tired of hearing Happy and I tell them to buy local. They're tired of hearing they're tired of hearing the minister telling them to buy local. The president has spoken about it quite a few times. So maybe it's time to hear different voices, and that's why your views are quite important. I see you wrote a book, though, An Adventure Through Rebellion.
It's 2 years old now.
Is it? But I'm bad when it comes to reading. I'm bad when it comes to reading. I'm horrible. But I think it's because of all this. Is it?
Yeah, I have a new book out. It's called Sermons of Soul. It's just, the cover's been revealed at the beginning of June, and the book drops on the 1st of August. So I need Proudly South African to help me sell Proudly Local writing, and not just my book. Use amazing literature. And those publishing houses and those authors also need to be supported. And I know that it's difficult because books are like a luxury when you're trying to buy soap or you're trying to buy bread and meat and milk and those kinds of things. Buying books might seem to be a luxury, and it's such a beautiful resource, especially during lockdown. You realize what a companion books can be in just making the boredom go away and feeling a little more connected to something. So you asked what my book was about. But the reason why I spoke about your book, it was about but the reason why I'm speaking about the fact that you write is because we have a column that we write on Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, except now during lockdown, we haven't written as much. But for the last 3 years, every single Tuesday, we get a column published in there. And from time to time, we borrow it to other people. The reason why I speak about your writing is one of these days I want to borrow it to you so that you can lend your voice to us about what your views are on localization and local procurement. That's where I was going with the fact that I see you're a writer. So can we lean on you for one of those columns? Let the people hear the buy local message from a voice that is very recognizable, even though not on paper. I would do it anytime, every time. I'm really business and entrepreneurs in South Africa. There's a comment there. I can't really see it. It's quite small on my screen. Maybe you can.
I can. It says, some will say buying local makes our communities worse off because local goods are comparatively much more expensive because of supply and demand. What's your take on that? And so this person wants to know what our take on in terms of price, especially when you compare locally made products with imported products. And my view, and maybe you'll give your view as well, is that I don't necessarily think locally made products are expensive. It depends at which level the product is pitched, and by which level I mean at which segment of the market is targeted. So as an example, a Makosa will say he is targeting the top tier and the higher end of the market, and that's why his golf shirts are priced at the prices at which they are priced. He is competing with other brands that are also at that level, whether they're a Gucci or a Boss and a Louis Vuitton, and those. That's where he wants to play. So it doesn't necessarily mean because it's a local product it has to be cheap. It depends on where the guy selling it pitches it, and so if you are a manufacturer and you want to go into business and you want to make a certain product, you have to do that research. Our people that it does not necessarily mean that local is expensive or local is cheap and that the quality is bad. It depends at which level you pitch your product and how much you invest in that product to make sure that it does well in that category at which you want it to be sold. That's my personal view, and it's based on the work that we've done as an organization over the last 3.5 years.
Well, I couldn't have said it better than you. I mean, I think that's a great observation. It's conventional wisdom. It's what we know, that the comparative pricing between some of the imports versus locally made products are disparate, and so people will generally go for the cheaper one, which happens to be the import. But I think you've made an eloquent argument, around that. I've just had a really great idea, and actually Darren is saying great idea. I think that's about, I'm
Yes.
very happy to do that. So that's a yes from me.
Thanks.
But what I want in exchange then, because we have to be in a quid pro quo environment.
Yeah.
So I want to come to talk to you and your team about some ideas that we've been thinking about ahead of this conversation around how we can help with the Buy Local campaign. And we have a very targeted strategy that we've developed for how this can be more exponential than it has been in the past. So we'll come and share with your team at a date and place to be established by you
Yes.
for some of the ideas that we have. Debate and discuss things in a platitudinous way, like, more as a philosophy and not as a reality. That's when we lose people. If you can go to communities, and I mean, you see these big, there are a lot of retailers around every community development in our country. I mean, you'll see, malls in certain places, or there'll be a strip mall, or there'll be places where people congregate to buy stuff. What are the spending and buying habits and patterns, and how do we really infiltrate the psychology of buying in different contexts and amongst different demographic groups in our country? And once we can hack that and crack that, I think that's where we really create an opportunity. I mean, if you think of any community in South Africa, which is the closest farmer, what are they selling, and is there an opportunity to create a cooperative around that? Strength in numbers, strength in making sure that there is a reliable market, a consistent market for those goods. That's how we need to start thinking. I mean, Rwanda has a model similar to that. I mean, whatever you think about what's happening in Rwanda beyond the economy, that's a subject for a different day.
Yeah.
But just on that cooperative model and on growing sustainable, long-term local business, there's an example that we can look to in that, which can, can be done in South Africa. You see, I can't chew bubblegum and talk. So Guy was saying, a Barca deal, Iman, talking to you will be our pleasure anytime. Taking a screen grab of that, since this is not my IG account. And I'll hold you to it.
So you're going to do a butter deal with us. We have witnesses. Yeah. So that sounds good. But let's talk about the fun bits a bit. What is the book about? What is the book about, Iman? The previous book, that is.
The first book, my debut, was supposed to be like a memoir, right? Even though I'm very young to be writing a memoir, the publishers liked my story, living in in a foreign country when I was still a very hardline, fiery young Muslim woman who was studying the laws of Islam in a university in the desert of Qom in Iran, about 250 kilometers outside the capital, Tehran. And I also worked for the public broadcaster there. And I then came back to South Africa and, of course, launched my broadcast career here. So it's less of a, how old were you when you did XXX? It's just about my perspective on different areas in my life and experience, find sense of fun and humor.
That's good.
I think I'm a good writer, and a lot of the reviews, in fact, most of the reviews, if not all, I should say, were complimentary about my writing style. So
that's good.
If people would like to get it, that would be such a blessing, and it would be such an honor for me to have people buy my book. But Sermons of Soul, my second book, is more about, it's a compendium of writings that I would do on my show on Power 987 over the years, which was a letter to South Africans and to a letter to everyone who lives in South Africa and calls it home. About how to deal with a lot of things, how to deal with political change, how to develop and amplify your own agency for things that are happening in your own life, how to have a sense of fun. I talk about men and dating and love and all the saucy things, Eustace, as I did in my first book that also made it into sermons. But most of all, I wanted to share that the challenge of living and life itself is so complex. And there are days when it's high and there are days when it's low. And what is the magic that is needed to help us survive or to even celebrate each of those moments in our lives? And how important it is to be surrounded by the right kind of people who help us evolve into the true measure of ourselves. And that was really the intention of the second book. Yeah.
That's good. No, that's good. I promise to read at least one of those books soon. I have so much that I read through. I mean, I work with marketers and I'm not a marketer, so I have to read a lot of marketing. So, and then I'm not an economist and I work in an economic space. So I have to read a lot of papers and so there's just a lot of reading that I do related to my work, but I promise to read at least one book by the end of the year, and maybe that's the book. You've just given me the book.
Your ancestors are watching, so you can't not keep the promise.
Yeah, I have to read at least one book. There are people who remind me, I know, who are listening in. But so something else that we do for fun as part of this conversation, and we're doing it for the first time with you, is a 10 in 10 quiz. So,
oh God, no! I've been out of the news.
No.
Okay.
No. It's all personal. Don't worry. It's nothing to do with. So the first one, just to put you at ease. Right. What is your preferred? What temp or pap?
Temp.
Yeah, no.
I'm a temp girl.
You're some girl. Okay. Durban Bunny Chow or Kota?
I bought Durban Bunny Chow.
And what is your favorite local holiday spot? In the country, obviously, local as Laka. Huh?
Durban? Hello?
Durban. Okay. Yeah, I think I could have guessed that one. First local destination you flew to?
Port Elizabeth. I mean, I love Port Elizabeth. People are great, but you know.
Okay, you'll tell us about it someday. It looks like it was an interesting experience. And do you have any hidden talents? Anything that South Africans don't know about you? I mean, we've discovered now that you're a writer, but outside of that, is there any?
Because I'm happy.
That's nice.
I do sing, actually. I'm not a bad singer. I mean, but I suppose you should ask the people who have to hear me. So that's my daughter, by the way.
Yeah, I saw the mom.
Saying hi.
I saw the mom, and I figured that that's your daughter. Hello. Yeah, so your mom says she can sing. Please tell us, can she sing? Maybe she she will tell us what you do. Yeah. Oh, damn. And then talking about singing, maybe let me go straight to this one because you've just spoken about singing. Who is to meet them?
Oh, I've met pretty much everyone, even Kaifa Semenya, Letamburi. I mean, I've met almost everyone. So who else would be my favorite? South African artists. I'm going to come back to that one.
You'll come back to that one, okay. Yeah, but because of the nature of the work you've been doing, it makes sense that you've met everyone, right? It makes sense.
Everyone that I like, yeah.
and you go gaga over them, or you have to be professional, because you meet them in a professional setting.
I'm cool. I'm like, sorry, what's your name again? What? Oh, okay.
That's so nice. And when was the last time you took public transport?
It's actually been a while. It's been a long time since I've taken public transport, actually. Also, you know, the work that I do, odd hours that I've worked, if I've gone to the radio or television, so I've needed my own transport. And also, I mean, I think it's a privilege, and I'm lucky to have my own transport to get where I need to go, or to be able to get a car if I need to. Yeah. So it has. Oh, the last time I took public transport, what am I saying, was in New York, London, and Paris. I mean, I did the underground, would take the public trains. Systems were really efficient. So from the Metropolitan to the underground to the subway in New York. And that would be about a year, probably about a year. No, actually, that was about 6-7 months ago. Took public transport, but not in South Africa. And
did you not wish you could just take that and bring it home and bring all that infrastructure home?
I did, because it's so efficient. And the nice thing about it is, so the class separation in the way that we travel now is stark. Because if you're in a lower income community, or you know you're in a situation where you can't afford your own car or your own transport, you have to take public transport. You have to take public transport to interact, especially people who have the ability to have their own transport, that don't interact with other people. So you miss that diversity of experience. You miss the conversations. when I was growing up and we would live on taxis, you got to meet different people. They were having conversations. You'd hear stories about what's happening in their lives. You help the older ladies with their bags. You would, it was just so much more rich and diverse of an experience. And I think when you travel in some of these, foreign countries and you're traveling on public transport, look, the people are not that open like we are, I think. So there's not this robust conversation that's happening in public transport. But I think that if we were able to connect with people more in public transport in South Africa, I think our feet would be a lot more closer to the ground in recognizing what's going on with other people. We wouldn't just be locked in our own worlds,
That's true. I see someone says, though, we must exclude Gautrain from that conversation about public transport. It's different. We must exclude it.
I think so, because Gautrain, right? I mean, it's at a premium. It's a particular route. Not everyone is able to get on there. So you're not going to have kind of experience that you would in a country where, it's used by, everyone in that population or in that city or town.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, since we're talking everything local and we're trying to get people to discover that which is local and which is great, which one is your favorite local wine, beer, or just drink?
So I know you guys gave me a coffee once. It was Seaclair's Brew, which I tried, which is really lovely. So that was a great local coffee. Makosa, of course, designs. I can't afford any, and we can buy for someone that I love, so I can't. What are some of the other local products? Was that the question, right? I'm losing my mind.
The question was more about wines and beer, but you went to coffee. Actually, man, it's Friday, man. It's wine and beer. Which one is your favorite wine and beer?
So someone whispered in my ear is the gin. Inverrush is locally made, isn't it?
Who? Inverrush.
Inverrush gin. It's made with botanicals, Cape Fynbos and things like that. There's another local gin company that I've just forgotten the name of.
There are a lot of gin companies, though. I mean, I did a gin experience about a year ago, gin market, and I discovered a lot. In fact, I did two. I did two of those, and I discovered a lot of South African gins. So there are quite a lot of gins. So at least you did try to respond to my question, because my question was about local wine and beer. And even though you went to coffee, Happy is responding. So Happy says it is a local gin, man. So you're right. It is a local
gin.
Okay,
cool. Thank you. Yes. And I love the bottles. The bottles are so beautiful. So, yeah.
Now we know who drinks gin on Friday afternoon. She even knows where it's made. But it's good that she knows the local gin. It would have been a career-limiting move. And then, what is the earliest memory of yourself? The very earliest memory of yourself?
It's me playing with the neighborhood kids. So when I grew up in a place called Reservoir Hills in Durban. It's a very affluent community, mostly Indian people. I mean, very clearly demographically split, because I kind of fall into that hybrid of being mixed race and Indian and, all sorts of things. So I grew up there. And my earliest memory is we lived in a garage, in somebody's garage in one of these, big houses in Reservoir Hills, because we were, we weren't wealthy people. But the nice thing about that was it was in an era when kids still played together, Eustace, when children still played together. And my earliest memory is going bundu bashing down to the Umgeni River with my mother's old pot and a potato and cooking in the bush. That's basically what I remember as my earliest memory.
That's nice, man. That's very good. And the last one. That sounds so sweet, though. That sounds like beautiful childhood memories. Which talented South African, since we're talking everything South Africa, which talented South African do you think the country should be on the lookout for? Is there anyone that you've come across in your new venture? You're coming across, and it can be in any genre, any space.
Yes.
It can be business, music, anything. Business.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There is a young man who's actually one of my well, as I say, my kids' friends, whose name is Apiwe, down in KZN, who is manufacturing his own clothing line. Modi, come and tell me what the label is. I'm going to get his label for you.
Yes, come.
got a label called Choppers. He's a young kid. Okay, this is his stuff. How cool
Oh,
is
that's
that? I mean,
nice. That's
put it on,
cool.
but I'm not sure.
You know, we have an online store, Iman. The last time we spoke to you, I think I told you about it. RSA Made. RSAMade.co.za. It works pretty much the same way as any online store. We can
Oh,
sell
that's
that
amazing.
on RSA Made, because people know that when you go into that platform, everything that is sold on there is locally made. You are supporting local businesses. So that's who Apiwe's brand is. Everyone, how does
Okay.
it look?
I feel like it's really, I
Beautiful.
mean, and so what I love a lot, Eustace, is there's so many young people who are not going down the same route that we did, thinking, you know, businesses can only happen in this way and can only happen when you have an MBA and when you and they are Simply Living says it looks cool. Thank you, darling.
It's beautiful.
They're innovating and they're saying, you know, the youth are not the future. The youth are now.
The
And
youth
they're
are
taking
now.
it now.
That's
And
cool.
I
The
love
youth
that.
are
I
now.
love
And
that.
people like it. In fact, we've received more comments about that hat than anything else we've spoken about. But at least people can see that local is indeed lekker, and that you do have a brand close to your heart that is locally made, that is locally grown, homegrown. And that's what this conversation was about, was to expose that. So I'm glad you did that right at the end with my last question to you in my 10 in 10 quiz, so that we can expose that brand. Let him join Proudly South African, let him list on RSA Made, so that people all over the country can access that product. That is it. The youth.
And you know, they're busy making music. There are lots of kids
That's
doing
nice.
so many different things, and they will definitely get on your platform.
But I think product of the day is choppers. And so I think
Yes.
it's a nice way to end off the conversation with choppers. So we'll keep that in mind. Let's send him through to us. You have our details. Let us help him grow his brand, grow the access. People must have access to that brand. But thank you very much. We're going to get off. We're going to get cut off now. So I wanted to
Okay.
say thank you before we get cut off.